So we're super happy that you're here, Baarns, Heller, Baarns, and today we've gone upscale over both of our pay grade, and we've added Adam Barr. And my first question before Mr. Heller introduces you, is that your real name, or is this some stage special name that you came up with just so that you could be super cool?
Yeah, this was planned. When my ancestors showed up at Ellis Island, they said, "We cannot send him into media with name Barshotsky. What? Nobody spell."
Your
So they
ancestors
said,
are British?
"Yeah, no, no, no. Listen, and I'll say it one more time." But no, actually, it is a shortened version of a name of a family from Pliskov, Ukraine.
Well,
So but yeah, that is my real name unless I've been deceived, which is entirely possible.
yeah, I know. Like, you don't fact check. You don't what is it? Fact check your ancestors.
I got people for that. I got people for that.
Yeah.
So, Johnny, how did you meet Adam?
Adam, his original job, I think, was door-to-door kazoo sales, and he came to our house, just behind the Jehovah's Witness group, and, we turned down one and ended up buying a kazoo, and that's pretty much just been, wonderful since then. Yeah, that's how it works. No,
Do you know there
but
is
I
such a thing
jest.
as a bass kazoo? So,
There's there's a kazoo in the basement as well, but anyway, that's a whole totally different story.
yeah.
Um, there was I think Adam and I met at probably in APAC, I
Yep.
imagine. I don't remember. And then Adam has been a regular at the New England Narrator Retreat.
That's where we met.
Um,
Yep.
when he is, I've coached him for a long time. He's been my dear friends. Again, it's interesting to me that question always because it would I'd be troubled or in difficulty to figure out a time I didn't know Adam. I mean, I haven't known him all my life, but he's one of those guys. We talk frequently. We see each other pretty often. I've probably known him 10
Pe-
years.
People ask me the same question, and I can't remember the exact moment. I do know that I was looking for coaching, and I'd started, casting around the New York area. And I had narrowed it down to three people, of whom Johnny was one. Any one of these three, I won't name the other two, but any one of these three would have been a fantastic career mentor. But my gut said, go with Johnny. And I've overcome that decision. But actually, it's as Johnny said. I'm in Philadelphia now. I used to be closer to New York. We do see each other a fair amount for the fact that we're 100 miles apart, and we've actually performed on stage together. But the interesting thing is, I don't know, we just sort of, you can tell by the way we feel free to rib each other, that we've had an affinity for each other as performers. I think we approach performance in the same way. Johnny's work is very different than mine, but the way we get into books, characters, stories is foundationally very similar.
Can you tell us more about that? What do you mean? So what do you both do that are the same or
Well,
similar?
when Johnny was coaching me in the very beginning, he said, "Okay, you got to remember here what you're serving is you're free to be a performer. You can bring your art to this, but what you're serving is what we call frequently the author's truth." And I remember thinking when he said that, well, yeah, what else would there be? So there's, it all came very naturally to me. So when you're getting into the intent of a book and the way the story is woven and the way the characters are made and how they interact with each other, you got to keep remembering whatever you may think about it or feel about it, what you're conveying is what the author put together and wants to hear conveyed in audio. And then the way, the mechanics of the business, how you prepare, how you cast characters, cast an audiobook, which I'll be happy to talk about, Johnny's way. Uh, all seemed very natural to me. It wasn't a stretch. It wasn't like my golf swing or my rowing stroke where I had to really learn hard. It all came very naturally.
Did you have a performance background before you ever talked with Johnny?
I did to some extent. Strangely, audiobook narration is the first time I ever made steady money in acting. I was always busy doing something else and acting as an amateur. Um, but yeah, I have a performance background from the time somebody recruited me to play Perchik in a in a synagogue production of Fiddler on the Roof when I was 15. And that is a hard song if you know Fiddler on the Roof. Trust me, when you're 15 years old and you've got like 4 different voices and you never know which one's going to come out.
Did you do the
That's
Yiddish? Did you do it in Yiddish?
no, although I heard a lot of people cursing in Yiddish in the audience. So yeah, yeah. But
I only ask because one of my dear friends is big in the Yiddish theater. So he's talking. So it's interesting how many things I've gone to see a few. I don't, it's fun. It's different. Yeah.
it's I don't know as much about it as I should, but
yeah.
when New York was essentially peopled with the whole Lower East Side was peopled with Jewish immigrants for a time, it became a major American art form.
Yeah.
And it's a very big deal. Yeah.
I think New York has some performers, right? Is that what I remember?
What's that?
I think so.
Yeah. Yeah. There's 3 left, I think. Yeah. So Adam, when you started, I mean, when I first met you, you told me a little bit about your history. You were an announcer for the Golf Channel or an author or both?
I was, I have manuscripts in drawers all over the place, but when we met, I had worked for the Golf Channel for 12 years as an on-air reporter, mainly talking about the business of golf and equipment, and then going out to tournaments and interviewing players when they got done with their rounds, which meant they were either, trying to tip me $500 or looking for something to slit my throat with, depending on how well they played. And I would interview them for 45 seconds and throw it back to the main anchors. So I got a lot of travel in.
Yeah.
And I was involved in the world of golf altogether, media and otherwise, for 25 years. Yeah.
And you lost the gig because you said, what, Ben Hogan couldn't carry Billy Casper's bag?
Well, not as if Golf Channel was, high stakes mainstream New York City TV, but it was subject to the same winds of change when new ownership came in or management wanted to try a younger slate of talent. One of my contracts expired and was not renewed.
Well, you guys who don't know Adam, I got to tell you, he'd be perfect for golf. He has a lovely, confident, pleasant style. He can hear him in the background. I just think that's such a natural fit for you. It's like Jim Siebert, who does minor league baseball.
Yeah, does baseball.
And Don's son Donnie, who does the soccer. And if you've ever heard him, it's just some people are just made for. I love when people find themselves in the right position, or the right position finds them, and you just see the happiness, and it's such a wonderful experience. And I can hear you doing golf, and I'm actually glad, however, that you now find yourself in the audiobook world, because I think you're such an asset to the community and an asset to the art. I really do.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, so what was your first, how did you first start getting into audiobooks or voiceover? Because I know you do both. You don't, which one did you do first?
I started doing audiobooks first, and I tried to take on some VO, and occasionally I still will. But fortunately, the audiobook business is going well enough so that I don't chase down a lot of VO projects like somebody hyper organized, like our friend Tom Deere, who really knows how to do it. And every morning at 9 has all his clients lined up and waiting for their work. I got into audiobooks because you can make all the economic arguments you want based on hours worked versus money made. It satisfied not only an economic goal for me, but a performance goal. And that's one of the reasons I sought out Johnny. I had finished up in the golf industry. I had worked in communications for the United States Golf Association. When that ended, there wasn't, much more place to go. And I thought, well, at this age, if I'm going to satisfy this performance Jones the way I want to and do it all day, this is my chance. I'm not going to get that many more reinvention chances. And by that time, I was in my 50s. So, thanks to, as usual, a supportive partner, my wife, Teresa, and circumstances and hard work. And when the work wasn't coming in, what I like to call obstinate confidence, here I am 6.5, 7 years later, doing this all the time.
So you were an overnight success.
Yeah.
over about 800 or 900 nights. Yeah. But yeah, overnight.
Okay. But also, and then, so you were an overnight success who also was smart enough, probably because you're a little more mature, to seek out one of the best people in the world doing this and get some advice rather than just kind of fumble around on your own. Is that close?
Yeah, that's actually dead on. I didn't think I had time to fumble around. It's not in my nature when making a big change to do that sort of thing anyway. And as we all know, that demand increased exponentially during COVID. The industry has had what 8 straight years of growth and profits, and a lot of people jumped into this thinking A, that it's easy, or B, that it's a low barrier to entry. Well, to do it at a quality level that's going to get you repeat business, it's neither is easy entry or maintaining it. So I get hinky when I hear of people trying to jump into this without any professional help, without making that investment, because I don't think they're increasing their chances of really going on in the business.
I love what you said just now, not only because you used the word hinky, but because it's honest and it's true. I mean,
Yeah.
we talk we on social media, of course, which really should have been a wonderful invention, but just isn't. um, and but people tell you, a lot of people share, in my opinion, a little too much sometimes about, because not everybody on social media is necessarily your friend or really gives a rat's ass about you. But those who do, but we talk about a lot of performers, and I've had workshops on it. And Anna Clement, my friend, does a lot of stuff about it. Anna Clement's about imposter syndrome. It's a big
Yeah.
deal in our industry. And for those of you not familiar with it, but I imagine more of you are familiar with it more than any of us here, the idea that you're doing okay, but somehow feel like you shouldn't, like you don't quite belong to this success. And I think part of that comes from, and I don't know if you've ever felt it, Adam, but I think a lot of the newer narrators, and how many books you've done? About a couple hundred books, right?
180.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
I don't know when imposter syndrome kicks in or at what stage of the career, but all of a sudden you realize, geez, what if they find out I'm really no good at this, or how am I getting this?
Yeah.
And I believe a lot of us pick up on those kind of insecure feelings because we all express them differently and we buy into that. But I don't think if you keep getting work, there's no reason, at least logical reason, to feel that somehow you're an imposter. I think it's important to spread the news that, hey, not everybody, but very likely you're good enough and you deserve
If
what
you
you
keep
got
getting
because you
work.
worked hard to get it.
Yeah.
If I hire Adam and he does what I consider to be an excellent job, and then I hire him again, I would, as the employer, I would never think of him as a fake. I think of him as doing exactly what I want him to do. And I think a lot of us have got to start understanding that we are doing what they want us to do, and we can always do it better. Adam
Oh
is a
yeah.
perfect. Don talks about this all the time when we have our sessions. Adam is a perfect example of the kind of person Don likes, because Adam is constantly working, not just with Johnny Heller, but with other coaches and other people, always trying to up his game in different areas. If Adam's going to sing, he's going to work on some singing coaching first. If Adam's going to, he rows regularly in whatever the hell that Philadelphia River is called.
The
What's it
Schuylkill.
called? Huh?
The Schuylkill.
The Schuylkill.
Yeah.
So, but he has to row because you want to fall into that, you bounce right back in the boat. But the stuff he does, he's worked hard to do, and I don't think Adam's position as, I don't know if they have. Do they have assigned positions in rowboats and rowing boats? Like the head
Yeah,
dude
but
in the.
it changes. It changes.
So, like, well, what are you
So on
mostly? Are
some
you the?
teams, depending on the team, right?
mostly I'm in the bow. I'm steering. And trying to go fast too.
Well, if
But
you're steering, do you get to row too? Because that'd be great
oh
for
yeah,
steering.
yeah. I mean, we steer by putting more or less pressure on either side. Believe me, I have to help the boat go fast if I
Is
can.
there a name for that position?
The bow seat, yeah,
So, do you ever
or
feel like
various other names that I wouldn't say on a family
yeah.
show. But yeah, I mean, it's,
when you put you
you
in the
make
ass, when I put you in the ass monkey seat, do you
you make a
feel
really good point though, because both at the boathouse and I hope in my profession, there are two techniques that you can join to avoid imposter syndrome. One is, I think, using the rational mind to overcome the visceral mind. First of all, insecurity is part and parcel of being an actor.
Yes.
If your business is to put your soul out there and be revelatory in a way that people find compelling, there are times when you're going to be insecure. And I remember having lunch with you, Johnny, one time, and you had gone through a spate of losing auditions. I said, wait, what? Time out. Johnny Heller, my man, ever loses an audition? And it occurred to me, yeah, that's the business. Now, I think, for you, that'll last a half hour. For other people, they think it lasts longer. But the point is, insecurity is part and parcel of the business. If you use your rational mind, as you have in this talk, to say, well, they're calling me back, so there must be something going on here. I don't have to flog the bushes really, really hard all the time to get work. People are calling me back because, I did it when I said I was going to do it. I did it to the quality I promised, et cetera, et cetera. And then the important second element to banishing imposter syndrome or making it less frequent is constantly improving.
Right.
It is an isolating business. You got to get together with your other narrators, be it in New England or on Zoom or informally, and compare notes and not feel alone, and work with the coaches and never think that, okay, I've made it, there's no more I can learn.
Yeah.
We hear that in all walks of life,
Yeah.
but it's true. If you're not constantly pushing the envelope as a performer and trying to level it up, then you're going to stagnate.
Yep.
And that's, I think, whatever credibility I've managed to earn in this business has been because of that approach. And it's not just in performance. It's the same in sports. It's the same at the boathouse. It's the same. That's the reason a 63-year-old guy down there gets respect, because they see me working in the boat. They see me in the gym afterwards. And they say, isn't it funny that man, talks in a little box and makes money at it? But that's, my point is, imposter syndrome is inevitable. You can minimize it by applying those techniques.
Well,
I think all of that. Go ahead, Don.
Well, so I had my story that some of you have heard already before. My instructor, Gene Stewart, had gone to Juilliard, Motown session player. As a young guy, I'm 16, 15, and he's going, yeah, but you have to keep a dual perspective on this. What do you mean dual perspective? Because I didn't even know those words. He's like, okay, you can be proud that you have advanced. If you are improving, it's okay to acknowledge that you've improved. At the same time, you do need to keep your head straight that you have not arrived. And as a performer, you will never arrive. You could do this for 16 lifetimes and you may be better than your peers, but you'll never be at your own potential. And he just beat the crap out of that into me in different ways. He would say it different ways, but he'd always come back to, you're always looking at two things. I'm proud of the fact that I've improved from where I was 6 months ago. And I should acknowledge, okay, I'm getting better. You're saying that same on the boat. That's perfect. And then at the same time, if you're better than all your peers, probably you're hanging around with the wrong people, or you're hanging around with people that are at a lower level, and you need to level up. Go hang around with Johnny. And then Heller does this in spades. I've never seen, there's just a handful of people when we're at these conferences. He's as big a sponge as anybody else, and he does this. This is awful. He steals ideas from other people. Can you believe that? He takes the best of what they're doing, and he integrates it into what he's doing. And you do the same thing. And everybody I know that's, doing that same thing. So that's one of the quote.
But
secret.
also, I'm good enough about it to give credit where it came from, though. If I learned something from Joel Frumkin, I'll say Joel said this, and I'll say Sean said this, Scott Brink, or whoever said it, Hillary Huber, whoever said it.
Yeah.
Because I don't want the credit. I want credit for incorporating good ideas into how I work.
Right.
I don't want credit for having all the good ideas.
Nobody has all the good ideas. It's like
I have a lot of them, though.
Yes, you do. You have most of them.
Most of them, I think.
By the way,
it is a pretty good industry for sharing, though. I mean, the reason
why
I listen to other narrators, and usually narrators who are more veteran than me, such as Johnny, such as Eduardo Ballerini, such as
Don Baarns.
Gabor Zachman. There are so many of them that I admire, is because I figure it's got to make my work better. I'm not going to do things exactly like them.
Right.
I can't.
Right.
But listening to somebody narrate something well, even if I can't articulate, I could say, oh, Ballerini left the perfect spacing here, but usually I don't. It's just it's a visceral thing. You see or hear a good performance, and as a performer, it inspires you to level up your performance.
What audiobooks are you listening to these days?
Right at the moment, I'm listening to Shakespeare, The Man Who Pays the Rent, which is Dame
I
Judi
never read
Dench.
that play of his.
Yeah, right. Dame Judi Dench talking about all her experiences with Shakespeare, and it's interesting. They got, I think Dame Judi didn't have time to do it, or for whatever reason didn't do it, except for an introduction. They got an actor who sounds in her vocal cadence a little like her, but does not try to mimic her. But it's a delightful book. The author is a Welsh gentleman whose name escapes me, and it's presented as an interview. Recently finished listening to, I mentioned Ballerini, narrating Amor Towles' latest Table for Two, which is, it started a little slow for me, not because of Eduardo, but is worth sticking with. I thought it was very well done. And I've got, oh God, I've got a list a mile long. And whenever I take a road trip or drive on down to the boathouse at 6 in the morning, I'm ordinarily catching up on books.
Yeah, I think you have to incorporate, especially if you're in the business, incorporate time in your schedule. Because, well, I mean, one of the things about what we all do is it's our schedule. We're not showing up to somebody else's office. We're showing up to our office. And I think I try to incorporate into my schedule the time to listen to audiobooks. And for me, it's, my regular daily Central Park walks, or when I go to the gym, or anytime I need to go somewhere that's of a reasonable distance. I like to reward myself with an audiobook on the way. So,
What are you listening
and
to now?
I am listening to, and one of the things that kills me is I don't listen to a few different things. I listen to the whole, if I like it, the whole thing. So I'm in probably hour 28 or something of, there's a 4-book set on Lyndon Johnson. I listen
Oh
to
gosh, the
presidential
Robert
historic.
Caro.
So, Caro's book on Johnson, it's book 1. It's narrated by the Grover Gardner, who I love. I just like his style. Is a James Stewart everyman style about him that I quite like. I think Paul Haysh has a style like that I quite enjoy. It just, yeah, here's the thing about these audiobooks, about doing a good job is, I know it's Grover. I've known Grover forever. And I know if I hear Adam, and I know if I hear Paul Haysh, and I know if I know who they are. But when I don't think about them at all, I think once they say, narrated by Adam Barr, that's the last time I want to think about Adam Barr. And
That's
I
right.
think a good storyteller, and Grover is, I mean, it's interesting. I'll tell you what does stand out. He says certain words, he pronounces them in ways I do not. Like I say acumen, he says acumen. And it doesn't even sound British to me. I don't know what that, I don't know if it's wrong, just different. When you look a word up and here's the pronunciation, and then here's the second or third. I'm invariably the third, the way I normally say things. So I try to change it.
Say
But
pale.
yeah, shut up.
Say which one?
Johnny's bugaboo word is pale. Mine
Any variation of it.
Mine at 11:39 p.m. is citizen. If I can't say citizen, it's time to go to bed.
My
know,
problem. The pale.
back in ancient Greece, the citizen, the punch, the citizen punch. Okay, time to stop for the night. So,
My problem with PAL or ALE or any of those
pale.
things.
Yeah.
Like Adam is my pal. See, I did that right.
Yeah.
But only because I've worked really hard. Because for me, all those words, and you know what the problem when you do an audiobook is? Whatever word is problematic for you will appear more than any other word in the universe.
Stanislavski.
Yeah, so mine is PAL, PAIL, and PALE, and all the variations on that sound exactly the same to my ear, and it's come out of my mouth exactly. I had a pale ale with my pale ale. So that's not right. And I know it's not right, but
in
no,
Lombard, Illinois, it was right.
no, it was never right. It was always wrong. Oh, it's always been wrong. But people, because I was such a cute little boy, no one corrected me. They just thought, what a cute boy with a freckled face and a speech impediment. Yeah.
There were no citizens in Mount Lebanon, Pennsylvania, I guess.
So now when it comes up, I'm like, oh crap. So a lot of times I'll call Joanne over and I say, and I'll point out if it's PALE or PAIL, I'll say that. And she'll say it and goes, pal. And I go, all right, pal. No, pal. And so I'm like, so it's a real problem for me. And I spend I can say any other damn polysyllabic word in the universe comes trippingly off the tongue. But when I get to this simple 3-4 letter thing with the same alleged sound, and that's the problem with the English language. We're just assholes that we make people learn this language. That certain, like, they all sound exactly like, but a little different. And some are exactly like and completely and the same.
I
It's
see
an
I see
awful language.
Tad Davis chiming in with phrases that trip up narrators, and it's true. The one that we talk about over beers is grasp or grasped.
Oh, yeah.
GRASPED.
He gasped as he
Grasped
grasped it.
and
Yeah.
gasped. Yeah, any SPED followed by, gasped at the sight of or
Gasped
gasped
at. Yeah.
toward. If it's followed by a consonant, oh my God, my brain splits in half.
Yeah.
But I really want to get it right so I don't have to like punch and roll 45 times in a row.
I've never had difficulty with grasp or gasp. I have a difficulty with the word, like, for some reason particularly bothers me, or
Yeah, that's a
peculiarly.
tough one. Well,
Peculiarly.
similarly
Yeah.
is another fatigue indicator. If I can't
Yeah.
say similarly or particularly, then it's probably time to stop recording for the night.
My little hint about those kind of things is try to say, either concentrate on the consonant sound in the word, just
Yeah,
it'll
I
come,
agree with that.
or concentrate on the next word.
Or look at the
And
sign behind you.
yes.
No, honestly, if you
Yeah.
if you slow those words by a tenth of a second, it'll feel like you're slowing them by a tenth of a second, like you're just pulling your foot off the gas a little bit.
Yeah.
All of a sudden they clear up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And a comma
And
before or after them,
another
too.
funny thing, while we're still talking shop, and I'll stop in a second, I promise.
No,
but
this is the whole point of this thing.
if I notice if I am tripping on things, I need to make my eyes stand up straighter, which means, strange as it sounds, look at the left side of the word. Don't look at the whole word. And a lot of people visually are picking up whole words or whole pieces of sentences, which is how you can read voiceovers, do live TV, read a teleprompter. That's fine. It's a great method. But if you find yourself tripping ahead, you can't manage your breath, you're screwing up pronunciations, look at the left half of the word, the first letter or two, and then get yourself back in a cadence, and then you can stop thinking about that.
Good. Yeah.
That's really
Also,
cool.
as we always did,
But in Hebrew, make it the
breaks.
right half of the word, though.
Yes. or the Japanese, read the other way. Yeah.
Well, to change this, to go back to our earlier subject, by the way, I am stuck. I'm on my second listen through of a book called Peak, which is about 8 years old. And if you haven't checked it out, it is spectacular about learning skills and how expertise is developed and, gained, how people gain expertise. There's one of the things they just say through studies, a doctor that has 20 years of experience very often is not providing better outcomes for their patient than a doctor that's been out of med school 3 to 5 years. And some of it is they get to a certain point and they stop learning. And they're repeating. So a perfect example, the best example I can ever think of is my mom has been driving for 50 years. Now, I don't know about your mom, but my mom would be in the lower, she's probably one of the worst drivers in North America with 50 years experience. She's the best mom. She's phenomenal in 100 other ways, but driving,
He is quick to add.
she just doesn't have any situational awareness, and it's not a priority of hers. And while there are hundreds of other skills over her lifetime that she has refined and gotten great at, and refinishing furniture, antique shopping, identifying an antique that I look at looks like a piece of junk, she'll pick it up out of the trash, and 2 weeks later it's worth $500 because she knows how to both identify and then refinish and that kind of stuff. But driving just hasn't been a priority for her, so doing it for 50 years did not make her a great driver. And there are people who unfortunately are in this business, or any business, who have been doing it for 10 years, and they're no better than somebody that's been doing it who studied with the appropriate people and are conscientious. After 2 or 3 to 4, 2 to 5 years, are just kicking butt and still getting better, still improving. So I'll put a link to that.
I think nothing will end a creative career faster than the cessation of learning. You simply, when do you say you've had enough? And in terms of the medical doctors not learning, medicine changes its mind about things every 5 to 8 years.
Yeah.
whatever they knew then has changed. So then that's why doctors continually have to be. I mean, that's why they charge so much, because they always have to go back to school to learn more crap.
Right.
What's that Woody Allen movie? The one where they go, "It's tobacco. It's the best thing for you." Remember, he goes,
oh, the one about the future. I
yeah,
remember.
yeah.
Hot fudge sundaes and fried chicken. I remember
Yeah.
that.
It's tobacco. Like, and I don't know if they'll change your mind, but things do change all the time. Look at when COVID reared its ugly head. Mr. Trump was wrong about the bleach idea, but they did throw everything at it to try and see what worked, and now we understand it better.
Yeah.
So people say COVID wasn't that important because people aren't dying anymore. That's because we understand it now.
Yeah.
Have a better feel for it.
Well,
science is not an immediate answer,
right.
and I don't think acting has immediate. I think everybody has all of the actors listening and being in this room, in this space, have talent or desire to have talent. They all have a desire to perform, and they have different abilities and things, but you never stop learning about it to become better. If your goal is to succeed, I think every actor succeeds, but continues to learn as they succeed. I will tell you now, I've done over 1,000 books. I am the 1,025th, or whatever number I'm on, I lost track. I guarantee, even if it's a worse book, listening, I'm better than I was in book one.
Yeah.
And if I wasn't,
yeah,
why am I still doing it? And I think everybody has to do that.
Yeah. My mom's given up on her ability to drive. So
is she still driving?
She still does drive, but if
What,
ever I'm
and
with
antiquing
her,
it.
she has me drive because she understands that I would just flip out having to. Anyway, that's different. She's just a perfect example of a wonderful person who is in one area stopped learning, and that would be absolutely the kiss of death here, because if you don't, you're going to get run over by the AI stuff. If you can't emote, if you're not working on your acting, it doesn't mean you can't succeed short term. And my mom gets all around. She goes to the grocery store. She does all sorts of things that are productive. Unfortunately, her demise someday is as likely to be an auto accident than anything else because of her unawareness. And I hope that doesn't happen. But anyway.
Well,
this conversation's taking a dark turn. How you doing, Adam?
I'm doing. Some of our audience is
get around others that are doing the same, and then it's easier because if you're around. But also, Adam, I have a question for you.
Yes, sir.
So, the mindset that you get into, since you're in this boat and you're with a bunch of competitive people who hate to lose, I'm assuming, right? This is a race. And therefore, you are in the gym afterward, and you've earned your respect because they realize you don't just say, "I'll go out during the races, and I'll be part of the team during the race." Why are you going to the gym? Why are you doing this other stuff outside of the races? And you practice?
It's a good question. It's usually when we get this time of year, especially when we get off the water, I'll go up to the gym and do a little bit extra as assigned by a trainer who I employ to make sure I'm not wasting my time. But it is a really good question, and there's a couple of reasons. The simple one is at age 63, I want to stay in shape. I want to keep doing what I'm doing in all areas of life as long as I can, as well as I can. Then there's the part in the competition itself. Everybody says this about their favorite sport, but there is some mystical, hard to articulate soul connection for me about rowing. And, I feel I want to take advantage of that. I want to row as well and as fast as I can. And if I'm not rowing in a single, which is most of the time, I'm usually rowing with other people, I don't want to let anybody down.
Right.
So I'm going to, I don't build muscle as fast at my age. I'm not a natural athlete. So I'm going to put in a little extra time to, earn the respect of my peers, B, get them to invite me to race with them, and C, maybe get a better result.
And what does that teach you about being a good narrator?
Well, that's an even better question, because it touches on the need to persist in anything you want to do. But we talked earlier in this hour about starting out or going through dry periods where you're maybe not booking as much work as you'd like to, or not the kind of work you'd like to. You feel the need to level up. You feel the need to hustle more. Or, when things get tiring, you feel the need to say, oh, maybe this wasn't for me. But persistence pays off. Seeking advice pays off. Being open to doing things that are at first uncomfortable,
Hmm.
a stroke change, a new weightlifting exercise, an acting technique that opens your heart a little bit more than you're used to doing in public, maybe. Whatever it happens to be, if you don't overthink it and you will allow yourself to persist, you will almost certainly get a reward for it. Maybe the one you're seeking, maybe something in addition to the one you're seeking, maybe different than what you're seeking. But you've got to hang in there. And in all sports, but in rowing in particular, there is a lot of hanging in there. At my age, we don't race 2,000 meters anymore. We race for 1,000 meters. Oh, a kilometer? That's, it's not even a mile.
No one knows what a meter is.
Well, it's a 6/10 of a mile. Well,
There
that's a
you
real
go.
short time.
Here's
That can't be
America,
too
son.
bad.
Yeah.
That can't be too bad. Well, halfway through it, you
You-
kind of want to die.
Yeah, your arms
So,
feel like they're falling off. I'll bet.
well, yeah, and then there's the whole respiratory thing, and the fact that funeral directors are hanging out by the finish line trying to look nonchalant, like, oh, I just
handing out
Would
happened,
you like it
cards.
in redwood or
I
would you
just
like it
happened
in
to be
oak?
here. Yeah.
Would you
Why are all those?
while you're waiting, would you like to see our catalog?
Yeah, why are all those hearses parked near the finish line? But not to make light of what I was talking about before. I think the persistence that was required to be a performing artist in narration helps feed the rowing, and the persistence required in rowing helps feed the narration.
I want to interject a quick thing about my technical expertise, which is growing daily. So
Nowhere to go but up.
I needed a cough, so I wanted to not let anyone else. I wanted to, so what I did was I actually turned off my earphones, left the mic on, coughed, and, and then I put the earphones back on before I realized I turned off the wrong thing. So I want to point out to those in the audience, you don't have to be a tech whiz to be good at this gig.
Look at your success.
You need Don Baarns. I don't know what I'm doing.
But but this is the difference. Wait. You're my mom. Well, no, sort of. You don't take that literally. You're my mom in terms of you have priorities. She could be a great driver if it was a priority. And I don't put her up there as an example of just a bad person. It's that has not been a priority for her,
Right.
and therefore she's got plenty of other areas where it's a priority. And you're the same way. You've prioritized things and you seek expertise from the areas that you have your weaknesses, and nobody knows that. Like, I'm not a great actor. I'm constantly, I did a voiceover yesterday with my wife, and she looked at me and I did 2 lines in a different voice, and she's like, wow, I didn't know you could do that. I mean, she doesn't have high expectations of me, and it's the reverse. I have areas that nobody expects me to do anything, and if I just do the littlest bit, that to them is like, wow, he's improving. And if I were to keep at it, I could be dramatically better at that area. And you don't look at me and go, well, he could never. You might say, well, he's awful today. But if I applied the same rowing ideas, I do think people that go out and do something else in addition to only narrating very often find other vehicles to work on the mindset. And I know, Johnny, you kind of walk every single day. Do I have that correct?
As much as I can, unless it's when it was 100 degrees, I didn't. But yeah, but mostly yes.
Yeah, because
If
I don't
I
think
don't
you
go
can
to the gym.
sit and be a blob and narrate effectively if the only thing we do is go in the booth and then the rest of the day we're sitting on the couch watching movies. I don't think we're going to do it as well as somebody like Adam, who is doing something highly intellectual, the narration, voiceover, highly intellectual, and then also doing something to manage and help us as we mature, keep in a reasonable shape. I don't have to be a superstar athlete, but it doesn't hurt to be physically in better shape than just sitting around all day. Is that correct? You guys find the same thing?
Absolutely. And look at what you prioritized on. Now when people think I need tech help or I need to know how to get my best sound, your name comes up immediately. So you prioritized and you sought excellence in that particular realm, and it worked. So
I
as
also think
your thorough preparation for this session, testifies.
People also need, especially once, let's say this is what we do, audiobook narration, and Don does his studio tech stuff and everything. There's other things you can't, like Don also does pickleball. He talks about it a lot because he clearly enjoys it. He talks about his music background because he clearly enjoys it. You have a golf background, rowing. And I go to the gym. I do all kinds of things. But when we talked about being on stage together, one of the things that I had not done, and I did a lot of stage, but I never did a musical. And while I sang all the time, I was always afraid to sing in front of people. That goes back to all kinds of issues. But I had to do a song myself on stage.
And
in
not
front
an
of people.
easy song. Not an easy song.
I was scared to death. Angela Rose Massey, who was a dear woman, helped so much, and Adam helped so much. And not only did I do it and had a great time doing it, I wanted to go out. I started working on my monologue, started looking for songs to sing, to go audition. It was our last show was the day before COVID hit.
Right.
So we were done.
The world shut down.
Yeah. So, but even after that, even when I go to New England, we have karaoke is a big part of the night now, and it's so much fun. And even I'm doing it now. I'm getting up and I do it now. Granted, I'm a little toasted by then. Adam was rocked on various hallucinogens and crystal meth, and he still did Walking in Memphis. I still remember it.
That was fun. I knew my audience.
Oh my God, it was just great. He is a great singer, everybody. You should get his next Christmas album.
You're very kind, but I want to say quite seriously, when the show we appeared in right before COVID at the Alvin Ailey Center in Hell's Kitchen area was A Man of No Importance, a lovely musical that didn't get its due on Broadway, and Angela really wanted to do it. And Johnny played a character, a widower, who had to sing, Baldy, the tavern owner, the pub owner, who had to sing about his memories about his wife. And it was a touching song, and it needed commitment. And I remember him saying the whole time, I've never been in a musical. I never sung. I don't know if I can do this. I don't want to let people down. And I said, you're going to be fine. Just be like you are when you do books. Connect with the character. You're an expert at connection. And he made us all so proud with that song. The show is worth a look. You can find it on Spotify. It's called A Man of No Importance. And the song in the second act that Johnny sang was called The Cuddles Mary Gave. And it is a very touching love song. And this guy who, in all of a long acting and stand-up and audiobook career, had never appeared in a musical, hit it not only out of the park, but out onto Waveland Avenue. It was all the way out there. It was very well done.
Well, thanks. That's not where I said it.
Three performances.
Yes.
So you're saying it is available though?
It is on Spotify. Yeah, I think Roger Reese played the lead character.
No, not our show, Don. Our show is not on Spotify.
Oh, okay.
Oh no,
the original. No.
Okay,
no
okay,
one.
okay.
No,
the original cast in the Lincoln Center production from the.
But
70s,
James Romick was on this call. You know, I love James. He is
James is
great. He's a great actor. He is great. I was so blown away. He's an excellent actor.
Every time I see him, he had a very dramatic moment in the second act. Every time I see him, I say, "You had one foot in hell. I only meant you well," and he did it 20 times better than that. He just blew it up.
It's a listen to us in the back and pat each other on the back. Good job 2 years ago. Yeah.
I got to play not the brightest tool in the shed in that particular show, and I got to say, or I could be spear bearer number 3. So we just had such a blast with that show.
But here's the funny thing. I'll bet you that influences a lot of the work you do in audiobooks by doing the same show multiple times in a row and having the ability to refine. Like, you're going to read through a book, you do your prep for a book, you read it, and then I don't want to say you forget about it, but you move on to the next one. Yeah. That's different than going through and doing a show that you do 4 nights a week for 3 weeks or 6, whatever the run is. And you get a chance to refine and refine and refine and get comfortable with the things that you weren't. So I'll bet your singing by the end, you were a lot more comfortable because, you'd made some mistakes and refined it and fixed it and got better and better.
Absolutely. I'm getting an itch to get back on stage. Of course, that takes time away from
Sure does.
from books,
and takes money out of your pocket too.
Takes money out of your pocket, depending on, you know, Angela, I'll do anything. Our director for that show, I'll do anything she says. I've been in 2 of
Yeah.
her shows because
Yeah.
she runs a little theater company that benefits people, like single mothers who need to complete their education, things like that.
Yeah.
So Angela says, appear here, be in this show with me, and here's something that'll cover 1/10 of your expenses. I'll say,
Yeah.
how high do you
Yeah.
want me to jump?
I,
But generally, it takes time away from books.
I will add my technical woes followed me even on stage, and ever since I got my first, I was an equity actor. I was trained for stage. That's all my training, so I was fine and stuff. But now, there were scene changes in this show and all these
Oh
things,
gosh, yeah.
and I never could remember A, what scene was next, or B, what I was supposed to move or what I was supposed to look like. So once somebody started moving shit, then I remembered, oh yeah, that's that scene. And I'd run over and get the stuff I should have moved a minute ago. Or I'd ask what's his name? The young fellow who just got married.
Danny.
Yes, Danny.
Yeah.
I'd stand next to him because he had it down. I said, Danny, what scene is this? He goes,
He
this
was
is the scene
12.
where you pick up the chair and move it. I said, he'd whisper to me, and I'd go move all the stuff I'm supposed to move because I couldn't remember to save my life.
Well,
No,
think
I remember, and there was no space in the wings in that particular theater
No.
either. It gets harder as you get older to memorize your lines.
Yes,
okay.
Yeah, no question.
which is where improv comes in.
Mhm.
Unless the fellow actor's waiting for a cue.
Which often happens.
Yeah.
But here's the thing. You two could have just said, you know what? I'm just going to watch other people, movies, TV, streaming stuff. And being in the middle of it keeps you younger, keeps you growing, and also keeps you a little bit humble when you work with other people. I know part of Johnny's magic is that because he's gone out and done this himself and he's put himself in something where it's uncomfortable, when you go and you study with him and you're uncomfortable, he's like, yeah, I get it.
Yeah.
I sang on stage when I didn't feel like I knew enough, and he did it anyway, which just you'll find, by the way, almost all great instructors have something in their life where they're also a beginner because they still relate to what it's like to be out of their comfort zone and not
Precisely.
always be just doing the one thing that they're already good at, and that really helps.
Yeah,
Don,
you have
that's
to
a
scare
yeah.
yourself a little bit.
You have, and I think Adam, you'll agree. I think for an actor, not so much a nuclear physicist, but for an actor, you need to live outside the comfort zone.
Yeah.
The comfort zone is where you go, where it's safe for you. And I'm telling you, a safe actor is not an interesting actor. A safe actor is not a fun actor. A safe actor isn't exploring, isn't sharing the author's truth because he's seeking safety.
Right.
If there is, that's okay to have fear,
Right.
but you have to face it, deal with it, and attack and beat it.
Yeah.
You've just simply got to do it. It's not an option if you want to be successful doing what Adam does, doing what Don does, pardon me, you need to accept the fact there are fears, there are issues, and still carry on.
My wife will tell you I had a year where I played 250 gigs in 1 year. So there were many days I was doing 2 or 3 gigs on it.
Yeah.
I would be driving to a gig after doing 300-400 of them, and I would be nervous. And I'm thinking to myself, why are you nervous? I didn't know that I was with somebody new that time, and I'm thinking, boy, am I going to be able to get through this? I mean, it always worked out fine, and that
But if
doesn't
you're
mean I
not
was
nervous,
perfect.
do you care enough?
But
That's
I
the
was
thing.
nervous going into
Yeah.
situations after doing it hundreds and hundreds of times, and you go on stage, and if you're not stretching and you learn how to turn that nervous situation into the proper energy. Everyone else thinks you're just energetic. I was,
Yeah.
but most of us were nervous at some point during our performance, but that stretching teaches you how to deal with being nervous and how to turn it into something that you can use. And boy, all the performers I know do that, in spades. They just don't stop. So
I noticed Lisa got on and confirmed that you
she
stretched yourself on
She
that
was
VO.
really, when we were done, I mean, it was only a few lines. She really literally looked at me and says, wow, I didn't know you had that in you. That's great. And I'm
That
thinking,
reminded me, my wife of 34 years picked one of my books to listen to not that long ago, and it happened to be a thriller in which the protagonist goes to an analyst. Imagine that. And near the end of the book, he has a breakthrough. And I didn't intend this, but when I was reading it, I started to get choked up, and I thought, well, am I going to stop and re-record this? And no, I'm going to go with this. And it became, you can understand what the character says. It didn't get that bad, but it was essentially an audiobook crying jag.
Yeah. Yeah.
And she said, I never knew, she's the same words, I never knew you had that in you. I said, well, not every book's like that, but this is what I do. But the thing is, it wasn't planned, but
Right.
because I was willing to take the risk,
Right.
there's a safety net. I don't have to turn in that file if it
Right.
turns out to be a bad performance, but it turned out to be a good performance because I took the risk. And quite accidentally, I read a few reviews and it said, oh my God, this guy put it out there.
Yeah.
So other people picked up on it too. So whatever consequence you might be afraid of is probably illusory. And whatever gain there is, reward for facing down your psychic fears is probably immense.
Yeah, and you nailed
Yeah,
one thing though. We're all sitting in our own booth by ourselves, and if you went for it and you had a terrible take, quote unquote,
Can do it again.
you can do it again. There's no reason for people not to be going for it in their own booths. I do understand if you're on stage and you're in front of X hundreds of people and you have people depending on you. Yeah, then it's really like a cool thing if you're going for it when it works and being humble enough to know you go for it. There's occasions where it just doesn't, and you get back up, and the next night you go back and nail it.
Yeah.
That takes some practice though, and takes some, I mean, anyone that's been a performer has gone through that, having that bad night, getting up the next night and having it work a lot better because you worked at it. But you got
If
to go
you're
through it.
if you're in a good show that's well directed with a cast that that you trust and they're going to pick you up, and if you use your acting techniques as staying in control,
Right.
even though you are allowing emotions to come out, you still have to be in control of your performance. Then yeah, that can happen on stage. But yeah, that's a different. I agree, it's a different ballgame.
But it's an interesting thing to say, Adam, and it works in audiobooks because if we say, if you look at the audiobook as a show, that's the script, that's the show, that's what you're performing.
Yeah.
Well, you need to trust the cast because the cast is you.
Yeah.
So you're with. Let's be honest. I guarantee every actor thinks you're the best cast you could have. Who's best to play these 70 people? You. So you play them all. And I think unlike in a show where, and I've used this thing before, but if you're going for it or something happens or something's amiss and you miss an entrance or you flub a line or there's a moment not realized, you have to cover on stage because the audience is there and the cast members are there, but you can't really adjust, fix, and make it better till the next performance.
Right.
In the audiobook world, the actor needs to be both actor, director, and audience at the same time.
Right.
So that you recognize that if you want to go for it, damn it, go for it. If it doesn't work, all that tells us is that choice, whatever it was, isn't the best choice for this.
Yep.
Now, maybe the choice I made would work for Adam, but wouldn't work for Johnny, wouldn't work for Don. So perfect choice for Adam, bad choice for Johnny. And the reason you made a bad choice in the audiobook performance is you'll start having difficulty saying not the words you mentioned, not particularly and sympathetically and bubble
words.
or anything, but words like of and cat and the, you'll start going up on it. That should be indicative, or that should tell the actor that somewhere in the moments before you missed a moment, you missed a beat, you made the bad choice or the wrong, not a bad choice, just not the best choice.
Right.
You have enough
fix
level of
that,
discomfort.
it flows.
You have enough level of discomfort inside to realize that wasn't the best. That's not what you wanted. That's not the author's intent. That's not what you want to turn into the publisher.
And I think,
well, I have to
and
add
I
something.
believe
I get
that
on
good
the other
actors
side
fix
of
it.
that too much because people are contacting me because they're editing all sorts of stuff. And sometimes I find out that the reason they're doing so much editing is they're not trusting their acting choices and they're not treating. I would rather have someone like you two who have had some theater background and understand that the show didn't get ruined because you have one line in the middle of it that's all, quote, not your absolute best truth. You have one line that's just out. What do? You get the director's note and you fix it in the next show. You learn from your performance today to make tomorrow's performance better. But if something happens, you go with it. And 8 out of 10 times, the audience has no idea that you had in you something dramatically better. And that night wasn't your best. That performance wasn't your best. and they start using the tech as a crutch to try to get the perfect line for every single line in the thing, and to the point where they're spending crazy amounts of time editing. I'd rather they do more performance than
They
doing
lose their
more
connection
editing.
to the story. Yeah.
Yeah. So, I
Yeah.
mean, so emotion can come out that you're passionate about something without me saying every word correctly. I've never have said a sentence correctly, basically the way I talk. But
I think if you trust yourself, the way Johnny's talking about, to be the director and cast and audience of this audiobook as you're creating it, then you will know in a certain place in your stomach, if you're me, let's go do that again. That wasn't quite right. To the point where if a character that we heard in chapter 3 comes back in chapter 8, let's say he's like Roman Polanski in Chinatown. I thought I told you, you're not going to do this that way. You're going to do this that way. And he comes back in chapter 8, you do him again, saying the new thing, and you think, well, did that match? You can check if you want, but chances are, if you've done your prep and you're committed to the story and you're not distracted, you did match, and you don't have to check. And if you break down and you check, you'll probably find you're right.
Yeah.
well,
If you did your prep,
Yeah.
if you maintained the connection, if you didn't allow yourself to
And
be
here's the
distracted,
funny
and you
thing.
committed to the story.
If you can't remember whether you had a perfect match, your audience is not going to remember the way you voiced a line 8 chapters ago. I mean, first off, I don't
Unless they're
care.
actually from Brighton Beach, then you're screwed.
Yeah. Anybody? I love the people that are really hyper strict on accents, and they, like Mel Gibson didn't do the appropriate in Braveheart. I heard one critic saying, "Well, his accent and it wasn't real Scottish," and I'm thinking, well, okay, but I don't know what real You could throw real Scottish in
There's
my
a
face.
reason for that.
I would
Nobody wants
never
to
know.
listen to real
And
Scottish.
he's acting. I know
Yeah.
he's not from there. He's
Yeah.
probably, and I don't care. The story itself was good, bad, or indifferent based. And if he's consistent within himself, I'm good. And that's how 90 per, I don't know, most, if you can know and do the perfect Brooklyn accent, then great, awesome. But is that the key to great storytelling? Because the guy from Brooklyn could have grown up in Connecticut or could have grown up in California. No one really cares as much anymore. Anyway.
I love dialect. Love dialect. Shout out to my friend PJ Oakland. I love doing books with dialect. My accountability buddy in this business, Phil Thrawn, a fantastic narrator. We both love doing that kind of stuff. But some of the actors I really admire, you never think of them for their accents. Gene Hackman, Tom Hanks, Michael Keaton to some extent. And it's not all men. I was going to say Meryl Streep, but she's done a lot of accent work. But Helen Mirren, Dame Judi Dench, you don't think about their accents. You think about how effectively they connect and how believable they are.
Right.
Gene Hackman, except in that one war movie where he played a Polish general early in his career, he never did anything with his voice. And yet everything he did was amazingly authentic. That is a great foundation to look at if you're looking for what makes a good actor.
I think a lot of us need, the actors anyway, need to understand that, you make, if you said, he said in his lovely French accent or something, if the author says that, you have to do something that, at least, even if you're not good at it, you got to be at least Pepe Le Pew good. But, so you try and knock it out. But I think you have to realize the audience has already suspended its belief.
Right.
Yeah.
As soon as I'm doing a cast of, more than 3 characters or more than 1 character, I'm asking you to believe I'm all those people.
Right.
Not only am I Johnny, but I'm Adam and I'm Don, and I'm also Mary and Lisa.
And Winnie the Pooh.
And since you're accepting that, if I don't do a dead on Welsh, who gives a rat's ass? I never said I was, but it's not important that I'm doing Welsh or Scottish or Czechoslovakian. What's going on? What's the emotional connect here?
I remember being in the YMCA gym and listening to you do a Christopher Moore book, and I think you had like 2 lines of a South African guy, like in chapter 1 or 2, and it was fine, but I thought to myself, oh, that poor son of a bitch had to do that.
Oh yeah, well, actually, I did that also as a Jamaican guy. When I auditioned for it, I called Frumkin. I called Joel. I said, Joel, say this for me in a South African, which I'm a little better at now. When I find I'm crappy at something, I try and get better. So now I'm better at it because I've studied it a little bit. But I couldn't get it down, and I can do almost any UK type accent at all. But
Yeah.
but I couldn't get the South African.
That's a
So
tough one.
he did it for me. And the same thing. I've got a book I'm doing now, a bunch of short stories about Hanukkah noir, if you will, that the Hanukkah prayer, out of him, whatever it is. My buddy, there's a rabbi in my building. My buddy Steven, the Yiddish theater guy. I have them say it in my tape recorder, my phone, and I just repeat it
in Hebrew.
back. Yeah.
Hot damn.
Yeah, so you go. I mean, I'm not, so you do the best, but that kind of stuff. I mean, look, you've got to understand that the audience has already accepted.
They are.
You know what else they know? Know what else that when I watched Mission Impossible 32 the other night, and in the middle of it, I looked at Joanne. I said, "You know what? I got to tell you, I don't think this is a true story."
Oh, but watch James Bond instead. Then
Yeah.
you get the true
story.
No, but your point is well taken. They are meeting you halfway.
Yeah.
And they're willing to work with you. So
Yeah.
that
Unless
should
you're terrible
reduce
at it. I mean,
narrators.
you're doing your job. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
cool. Well, Adam, this hour has just flown by. This is crazy.
It has.
You're a joy.
This has been a blast, guys. Thank you for having me.
Anything that you can tell us about that people should pay attention to that you're doing up sometime soon?
Oh gosh, I'm finishing up a book by Adam Kirsch, Kirsh, called On Settler Colonialism. If you're interested in a cogent essay on the Palestine-Israel conflict in Gaza, that's a really good one. I just finished the book by the futurist Jeremy Rifkin called Planet Aqua, about a new way of looking at the environment in a climate-changing world. And I've got a nice biography coming up in August about Eisenhower, from West Point to the war years.
Ooh.
And how, like Churchill, he didn't show big leadership qualities, but obviously stepped up when the time came. I've got a nice mix coming, and I'm very thankful. Yeah.
Cool. But now here's the thing. I can't spell aqua, so I can't look that one up. I was going to get some URLs there, but what you need to do is go search Audible, and then you can search on Adam's name as the narrator, and you can find his books. Okay, because I can't spell some of those words.
And I went very fast.
Yeah.
Okay. And Johnny, what do you have coming up?
The biggest thing, Paul Allen Rubin, who a legend in the community, and also in his own house. He and I will be doing an audiobook acting intensive, which is what I'm all about. August 24th in New York City. Go to johnnyheller.com, click on workshops. There's room for, I think, 4 or 5 more people max, because we want to leave it small enough we can work with people. So that's August 24th. It's a Saturday, like 10 to 5 in New York City. Go there and see a show after or something. But
you want to talk about time flying by? I have done these sessions, and they are extremely useful.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, and I want you to, I mean, it's not a fortune, and it's a great way to spend the day. We'll get you lunch. And then, of course, after that, in October, we have literally only a couple spaces left for the New England Narrator Retreat.
Cool.
I may have, if you're a gentleman who wants to go, I may have one space on site. I'm not sure. Somebody may be dropping out. Not confirmed yet, but they're in a roommate situation, so I need a roommate guy.
Yeah,
including karaoke.
Get on
yes,
the wait
and you
list.
Can hear it. Adam.
Get on the wait list if you want to go, because sometimes things happen to people last minute, and people have to change. And so yeah,
people could take a car trip with Don's mom. So who knows what's going to happen?
Yeah. Bring my mom. That'll be a joy.
Poor Don's mom. My very best to Don's mom.
The thing is, and of course, I will make sure I repeat 100 other things she's amazing at. So keep that.
And Don, you have a show coming up later this afternoon?
I'm doing a tech show. I do every Tuesday a tech show at 5 p.m. Eastern called VO Tech Simplified. And I don't even remember what the subject is right now, but I promise you we'll be there. And you can ask questions live, just like you can ask here. And it's always amazing. Sometimes I start off with 10 minutes worth of stuff, and we could do 2 hours, but we do 30, 45 minutes. So
and don't forget, if you like this show, please comment, share with your friends. It makes a huge difference in the word getting out about this free Tuesday offering.
Yep. Super happy to have you around. And as always, we look forward to seeing you on the wires. Have a great day. Bye-bye.